Okay. Go ahead and hand it off to the chair whenever you're ready to get going.
Great. Thank you very much. We will call the Italian Village Commission meeting of Tuesday, August 11th, 2020 to order. It is 4:01 p.m. Just to get us started, let's have a roll of all of the commissioners online. Will you please state your name? Ben?
Ben Goodman.
And Brooke?
Brooke Michael Smith.
And David?
David Cook.
And Todd?
Todd Boyer.
And I'm Jason Sudi, and I think that's everybody, right? That's
yes.
Okay.
Lauren might be here about 10 minutes late.
Sounds good. And the next Commission monthly business meeting is at noon on Tuesday, August 25th, 2020. Virtual hearing to be held via WebEx. The next Commission hearing is Tuesday, September 8th, 2020 at 4 p.m. Also a virtual hearing to be held via WebEx. With that, I will swear in staff. Kimberly, is anybody else speaking today?
No, it could just be me.
Okay. Will you state your name for the record, please?
Kimberly Bernard, Assistant Historic Preservation Officer.
And you promise to tell your truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this afternoon.
I do.
Okay, great. Thank you. We already introduced the commissioners present. Can I have a motion for the approval of the July 14th, 2020 minutes?
So
Who made that one? I'm sorry, I got a little blurred up there.
Ben will make it.
Okay, Ben made the motion, and can I have a second?
I'll second.
David seconds. All in favor, I'll read the roll. All in favor of approving the minutes, Ben?
Aye.
David?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
And Jason, yes. 5 in favor, motion carries. Okay, moving on to the public forum. Staff, do we have any public forum today? Public forum, fora? I don't know what the plural form is. So there we go.
No, we do not have a public forum today.
Okay. Staff approvals. What page does that start on?
Page 6.
Okay, page 6 of the agenda, if everybody can flip to that. If I can have a motion for staff approval.
So moved.
Second.
And David seconds that. All in favor, I'll call the roll, and I'll go for abstentions. Brooke?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
And Jason's yes, and I'll read through for abstentions. First one is 1081 North 4th Street. 171 East 3rd Avenue. 1087 Summit. 140 Warren. 106 East Lincoln. 304 Cornelius Street. 1 East. 248-250-252 East 4th. Okay, anybody, if I miss you, speak up now if you had any abstentions. Hearing none, motion carries with no abstentions. Moving to the staff recommended applications, I will turn it over to staff.
Alrighty, our first item on the agenda is item number 2. We had staff, the first one to staff approve the business meeting. So this is for IV-20-08-008 274 East 1st Avenue. This is a variance recommendation for vision clearance, reducing the vision triangle on East 2nd from 10 to 4 feet on the north side, and the North 6th Street driveway from 10 feet to 9. Vision clearance, reducing vision triangle at the southeast intersection of East 2nd Avenue and North 6th Street from 30 to 18 feet, as well as the AR3 apartment residential district use and the building lines variance. We did see a version of this, I believe, the last meeting or meeting before. This is just some minor modifications to it, but I know there was some discussion as the commissioners at the business meeting were concerned about retaining the public space along the sidewalk. It was noted that the overall project still does need to be approved, and that'll be a separate application and separate approval. Staff recommends approving with clarifications that the variances would be revisited if the design of the building corner is changed to reduce the public space.
Okay, excellent. Who is speaking today? Mr. Shannon, anybody else?
I believe it's just me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, sounds great. Would you raise your right hand and state your name for the record?
Yes, my name is, oops, sorry. Hold on, I lost my video. My name is Mike Shannon. I'm an attorney for the applicant.
Great. And do you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this afternoon?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So having heard the staff report, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, with all due respect, Mr. Chairman, these are some minor modifications to previously considered variances. They are de minimis in nature. The red line version of the text, which you have before you, shows that one of the vision triangle clearances went from 30 feet. We had it down to 25. It's actually 18 feet. We pointed out last time also that since we are rezoning to the AR3 residential district, we technically need a parking variance for the proposed commercial retail uses on the site. We also had a building setback going from 40 to 2 feet on East 2nd Avenue, and that should have been 0 feet. So hopefully these are not as significant as the other issues you have with the certificate of appropriateness, and those will be proffered by Mr. Barnes hopefully next hearing. With that, I'd be
Great.
happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I do have one for you. The 0 foot setback on 2nd Avenue, that is in conformance with the site plan that we've seen so far?
That's my understanding. Mr. Barnes did make a correction to that site plan, and I believe it was forwarded to staff. I'm quite certain it was, but I don't have it right here with me. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. Do you have any comment?
It was probably forwarded to me. I would have to double check and see.
It's there, but whether or not it changed or not, it's hard to tell.
Gotcha. Okay, over to the commission. Ben, since you just had a quick comment, would you care to continue?
You just want to make sure that, by and large, I'm supporting all these variances, but feel compelled to stipulate that my last piece, which has to do with these setbacks, is completely dependent on the design configuration that's been presented thus far. So to be specific, the building proposed so far has a cantilever design that faces 2nd Avenue, and it's the commission's understanding that this setback variance is related to the structure that overhangs, basically the building from 2nd floor up, and that there's a step back on the 1st floor at the foundation level. And so I would like the motion to talk about that condition so that it's clear why we are supporting that variance in this particular case. Similar is true on 6th Street, and that based on the design configuration of the way the buildings provide these triangular spaces, they provide a step back kind of feature that provides area for planting, and that we feel that that's key for that sort of minimal setback for this particular proposal.
Great, thanks. Brooke, do you have comments?
No, I agree with Ben's observations.
David?
I wish to abstain. I'm opposed to this project vehemently, and rather than continuing to say no, I'll just abstain and be consistent with my belief this is not the right use of this land for this project.
Okay, Todd?
Nothing to add. I have the same exact concerns, and Ben put it exactly the way I've been thinking about it.
Okay. Staff, can you give us some advice on how we might approach that, since I know there's a recommendation for variances? Is that something we can make in the motion to move forward through to the BZA, or how would you recommend we do that?
I would recommend doing it as like a clarification to the motion, or kind of like as a note at the bottom that I'd include that we'd have the variances and then a little bullet at the bottom saying this is contingent on X, Y, Z.
Okay, sounds good. Ben, are you comfortable making that motion?
I can make that motion. We are, I move on application. Oh boy. Where are we?
Hold on.
20-08-008. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
To recommend approval of the variances 3321.05A and B, 3333.03, and 3333.18, contingent on the design configuration allowing a cantilever and more importantly, a setback feature of the first floor facing 2nd Avenue, and that along 6th Street, the design configuration allowing for triangular spaces for important street-facing plantings, landscape area.
I will second that motion.
Okay, I will call the roll. In favor of the recommendation with those conditions, Ben
Yes.
and Todd
Yes.
and Brooke,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. And David, you are, you mentioned you were going to abstain?
Correct.
Okay, so motion carries, and that's it. So any other questions for us, Mr. Shannon?
Thank you very much. I understand your concerns, and I'll make sure the client's aware of them.
Okay, great. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. So let's see. Staff, we're on to IV-20-02-009 B and C. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so over to you.
Right, this is 1086 North 4th Street. This is a continuation. We're looking at the flat aluminum plate, non-illuminated letters, 14 inches high in Clarendon font of the Bud Dairy Food Hall on the main entry wall for the submitted drawings, as well as the Bud Dairy letters on the smokestack, either as dimensional letters or as solid painted letters. The applicant did reach out to me with some added discussion that he would like to include as different materials instead of the paint, but I'll let him talk a little bit more about that. So the commissioners at the business meeting noted that there were too many signs at the building and that adding a third one on the smokestack would not be appropriate. Still not sure about how the small signs would fit in with the overall signage, and that the painted brick is never appropriate. Per the 3116.11 standards for alteration, the distinguishing characteristics of the property shall not be destroyed. The removal or alteration of any historic material or distinctive architectural feature shall be avoided whenever possible. Each property shall be recognized as a product of its own time. Alterations that have no historical basics and which seek to recreate an earlier appearance should be discouraged. Distinctive stylistic features and examples of craftsmanship that characterize a property shall be treated with sensitivity. Exterior cladding of a building should be consistent with the original material used on the property. The building has its own history, with the Bud Dairy name being permanent and lit in the facade in 2 places. Additionally, this building would be split into separate tenant units, and additional signage on the smokestack is not warranted. Okay, staff does recommend approving with conditions Part B, certification that a signage plan is worked out between the commission and the applicant for future tenants. And staff recommends denial of the signage on the smokestack for the city code listed above.
Staff, I have to abstain from this. Can you remind me what our policy is now on the WebEx meetings? Do I turn off my video and mic, or what do I do?
You can just turn off your mic. That way you'd be abstaining. If you recuse yourself, you turn off both.
Oh, I mean, whatever you recommend. I won't be
I
able to
just
vote.
recommend abstaining because we can't call you back into the room.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay. Well, I'll turn it over to Todd then, and I will mute my mic.
Right?
Okay, perfect. Kimberly, do we have an applicant here with us tonight?
I
Swear
believe
in?
that at least Jim McFarland is here. I thought I heard him earlier.
Jim, are you still on the line?
Jim is not on the line. David Blair is here.
Okay.
No, Jim's
Uh,
trying to be, but he may come in and out because he was doing some traveling, and I don't know that his connection was good. So I'll back him up, I guess.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, David, do you mind, well, just stating your name for the record? Let's start there.
Yeah, David Blair with Shremshock Architects.
And do you swear to tell the truth this evening in your testimony?
I do.
All right, thank you. I think Kimberly gave us a pretty good idea of what we're looking at, but David, is there anything else you wanna add to,
Let me give
or
you
just
kind
kind
of
of
a,
clarify?
yeah, let me give a brief rundown. Jim, if you are here or hear me, feel free to chime in at some point. This was really more put together by them, but obviously I've been involved in the background the whole way. So we did remove the off of the signage that was the directional signage into the parking. So that was a request again, as there was a lot of signage with regard to the Bud Dairy. So we did remove that off of there. We have added, it was requested that we just kind of make sure we have all the signage that was going to be on the building, or everything we possibly could identified. So we have, there are a couple pictures, and I apologize, I'm only seeing what's on the screen. So I think what's on the screen now shows that the directional signage just says parking and doesn't have a second signboard below that says Bud Dairy. Above that was a plan that was leading to the other signage on the property that we've were requested to show. One is a blade sign for Kevin Lycan's office. It was a blue blade sign. Again, I apologize, Kim. I'm only seeing what's on the screen. Um, for his office along the alley. And then there was a couple other signs that will really just provide suite names and an arrow similar to our directional signage for parking. You can see, I think what's on the screen there is the blade sign for Kevin's office. And then you see the suite number signs with a, a directional arrow that would just mount on the walls at the entry to the court off the alley, and there's one in the north entry into the office space, the office building. We have identified the only place we have the address lettering is on the front of the building. It's shown in the 1086. I think we addressed previously, and I don't know that we need to go over it again, the sign we've been requesting on the wall, on the concrete wall, that is really announcing the primary entry to the actual food hall, because the building does have other tenants, numerous tenants in both that portion of the building and behind. That's the sign you currently see there, which is the official Bud Dairy food hall logo. The other thing we do know, the smokestack before, and the painted letters was disapproved. We did want to just kind of revisit that slightly as as a different option. So the option we were looking at is what's on the screen there, as if painted letters was not considered appropriate. We had originally thought it might be because there are other um, painted signs on walls from that era, but I understand there's not any in the Italian Village area. As to whether a mounted dimensional letter sign that would have mounting into the grout joints of the smokestack would be considered by the board. Again, kind of an iconic sign for the entire development we're looking for. So that's how we wanted to see if we could approach that sign. Um, Again, kind of an iconic piece on one of the iconic elements of the building.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, David. Um, Before we jump into commissioner comments, for the other commissioners, I tried to break it down just for myself. I had breaking it down to like an A, B, C, D, E, and F situation that we need to look at. A being the parking directional signs, B being the smokestack, C being the wall signs or the directional suite signs that are on the screen. D being the wall entry sign, the Bud Dairy Food Hall sign. E, the Lichens Blade sign. And then F, the building numbers, address numbers on the front of the building. If anybody else had any other
There is,
there.
I apologize, Mr. Boyer.
Yep.
I had forgotten as we kind of discussed this smokestack sign, which is the way we really wanted to push. If you remember before, we had, and I don't think not rightly so, a we'll call kind of a more of a suburban sign on the corner, way down at the bottom, was the last page, I believe, that we deleted. Again, it was one of a number of signs. And I think it was identified that, brick wall signs are not appropriate in this area. So we have provided, again, if we're not looking at the smokestack sign as an option, this corner sign, which is, I don't know if it's represented that well here, but metal posts, steel posts and steel top rail with obviously suspended signage at that location, still being requested by the owner, particularly in lieu of not having a smokestack sign.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I'll add that. I have that'll put as G, just kind of a monument corner sign.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Well, this one's a little tricky. A through G. Should we go around and talk about A, or do we want to talk about it holistically, or do we want to go around and just do A, then B, then C, then D? Who would like to
answer? Let's go individually and see how it falls out, because the key word you just said is holistic. And I've got to say, from this commissioner's perspective, there are so many disjointed pieces and parts. If you would go to page 4, if we could look at this first. Page 4. Let's look at all of those together. So let's just take the lichen sign. I don't have any problem with the blade sign idea, but why wouldn't you fill the whole panel with Lichen's name? What's this odd asymmetrical white border around the blue that makes the letter even harder to read or see? Fill the whole panel. And then we get up to Suite 100. You can go to the left or to the right. I don't understand the arrow points in 2 different varieties, 2 different locations. Why do we have the arrow points anyway? All the typefaces seem to be rambling around. Very, very different on the Suite 100 to what you want to put on the wall, which is the food hall. And we do understand now that that is the Cameron Mitchell sort of brand name for the project. So I can understand why it might be different, but these just all seem unrelated and disjointed. And I'm sorry, but the corner street sign to me is even more of a variety. It looks like something from a state park, or it just doesn't fit together. And I will also go on record as being highly opposed to any additional lettering on the smoke tower. There are 2 incredibly important and very readable signs that are part of the architecture of this historic building and shouldn't be messed with. Leave it alone and don't add anything else to the smokestack for this commissioner. So I'm concerned by so many different pieces and parts and different solutions. It doesn't feel cohesive at all to me. And the one that can set it aside is the one that's the Cameron Mitchell brand name. I get that now, but I still don't think it complements the building particularly. But having said that, those are some other things that maybe other commissioners will talk about.
All right. Thank you. Brooke, any comments, thoughts?
I agree with David on the smokestack. I don't think this signage on the smokestack is necessary, particularly with the banner sign at the top of the building along the top of the parapet. I think it would just too much. I also agree that there does still seem to be such a conglomeration of different types of signage on the site. And, I get you have different logos and branding elements for the different tenants, but it does seem like a lot happening. So biggest comment is the smokestack signage should go away, in my opinion.
All right. Ben, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there are problems here. But in terms of configurations, I can get behind jumping in the same order that David did on 4 and 5. These are fairly simple signs that are attached to the building. I think it's fine to have a blade sign, and these kind of chevron edge signs are, to me, make a little bit of a period. But it's true that it's kind of confusing to have a sign with 2 different chevrons on it. But just to be clear about that type of sign, I think I could support. The blade sign, it certainly seems like the support thing was just kind of thrown in at last second. It seems like they could figure out a better period kind of post and support for it, perhaps. The graphics on it that David mentioned, I guess we'll just circle back around to that when we know more. So I guess let's get to the big pieces. As you know, I've been a supporter of the smokestack signage because I think that you could render something here that seems like it's of the period, and it is a unique feature. So I kind of clump it with the same kind of thought process that went into why we allowed the hub sign down at High Street and Hubbard. It's just something that is unique, and so 4th Street perhaps could have used something like that, but I won't go into that much further. It seems like there's a consensus against this, and what I do want to talk about is a monument sign on the corner of 4th Street, and I guess it might be Detroit. Not only is the design elements inconsistent here, but it just as a principal piece of signage, a monument type of sign is just way out of place for this neighborhood. So, and so I think that on top of that, the inconsistency of elements in this chain of hanging panels, or this post and beam, which I suppose tried to be something. It's just a few panels hanging by chains, and it's just not good enough. I think they can do a lot better, and I would highly encourage the applicant instead think about feature or art at this location, not sign at all, whether or not they get the smokestack, and make it something that contributes to the streetscape instead of is just kind of a secondary element, to check a box on the program. As far as the parking, inlet signs, I don't think it's really that necessary, but I'll support, the package, support it in the package if the applicant feels like they're totally necessary.
Yeah, I'll follow up with with my thoughts. I starting with the parking directional signs, I kind of feel the same. I'm not sure it's totally necessary, but I'm not really opposed to it. I'd be okay with it in this package. The smokestack, I'm not in favor of, as I wasn't last time, just for the comments or reflecting what David said, is I think there are already two large unique signs on the building. So the wall signs or the smaller suite signs.
So yeah, I think maybe that's how we handle it. I could get the Don is like, listen,
I could get behind them.
put you and Ryan on the same training program pretty much. He's a consultant. You obviously still get.
Somebody needs to mute.
There we go. It just did.
Okay.
The wall signs or the suite signs, I think I could probably get behind those in the future if I maybe had a better understanding of how the whole organization was going to happen. There's suite signs, but then the Likens company has a business sign. If it was more consistent and they were all suites or something like that, because I could see it in the future becoming just business signs on the wall. So I'd probably want a little bit more information on that. The Likens blade sign, yeah, I'm not opposed to the hanging sign or the blade sign. It does feel a little weird, the Likens kind of layout on that sign. The building numbers I have no issue with, and then I'm also opposed to the monument sign just for the comments that Ben made, just for its appropriateness in the neighborhood. So those are my quick comments. Maybe what we should do now is just go. I'll do a kind of a. So let's break it up into. I'll start with application part A, which would be the parking directional signage. If somebody would be interested in making a motion for that portion.
I move on application. Where are we?
It is application 2002-009.
9. They call it B and C, but we're going to, I guess, rename these things. So, and you've named this parking element as A, to approve as presented tonight.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, then let's do roll. All those in favor, Brooke?
Yes.
Ben?
No.
David?
I guess I'm caught, Todd, a little bit because it seems like what could happen right here if we can continue this all the way through G is we're going to approve a few of the pieces and not the whole thing and seeing it all together. This concerns me that in two previous meetings, we've said we want to see this whole package, not just pick pieces of it. And I think we should really have the applicant who heard our comments, it will be in the public record, and say, let's just continue this and let them come back understanding that the smokestack isn't going to fly, nor is the big monument sign, and they need to connect these specific parking signs with the suite signs, which looked like they were trying to do that, but then where do the blade signs go? I'm just worried about voting on these as pieces and then having somebody say, oh, well, that was approved, you can't change it now, but it doesn't relate to anything else.
Fair point.
Sure,
Yeah.
that makes absolute sense.
I'm not trying to squelch this, but I really think we've all had very clear opinions on some of them, and the applicant should be listening to that. And I would say the best interest today would be to continue this and have them please respond to what we've said and at least eliminate, do not bring the smokestack back and don't bring the monument sign back.
Can I just make a comment and maybe we can get some of this combined? I think there were a couple of questions of the applicants, and so I wanted to just respond to them so you knew where some of the stuff came from, if that's possible.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I understand you want to take out the smokestack sign, that's fine, and the monument sign, so that's fine. I'd like to see if we can get the rest of it passed. I think the question became, and one was the lichen sign, why is it not all blue? I don't kind of disagree with you. Didn't make, prepare that sign, but I think that could occur. Um, that could certainly happen. I don't know why considered like that anyways. I agree. Kind of looks like something put on a signboard. That can happen. The suite sign and the parking signs, again, are the same design with the chevron. That carries inside to directional signage on the inside of the building, so they are all the same there. Then, as part of that, the double, the double chevron around above the suite was just to, you know, I guess keep that look. It could be a square sign, or it could eliminate the heavy arrows, right? I'm fine with that. The only, as Kevin is the owner of the building, the only sign on the building that was going to be a business sign, business logo sign, was his sign. So that's why that one is set off. All the rest of the signs are, as we show, would just be suite number signs that would occur over top of the suite um, um, into the space. And most of those suites are accessed off of, in plan, off of that back um, courtyard space. The other entry is on the north, and again, that would just have suites that you could access off of there. So we'd suite 100, suite 200, 300, 400 that you could access. So I thought those tied together actually fairly well. I understand the comments on the rest of it. And if we can, willing to take those other two off the table if we can get approval on the rest of it.
Question.
Yep.
So to Commissioner Boyer's point, and maybe Commissioner Cook said this as well, why isn't there a suite number on the lichen sign, for example, or a projecting sign?
He didn't feel he needed a suite number with his own business sign there.
Well, I mean, I guess so. In
kind
other
of
words,
a double.
There's a
Do I need
suite.
both?
There's an entrance sign, and there's a directional sign. So, and it seems to me that there are, there's a suite number to each entrance,
Yep.
and lichens might eventually move out. So it's, why can't it be both, lichens at suite 100?
I think that's fine. Would you, if we hung the suite sign below as a multiple piece, and below the lichen sign, again, a chain hung that had suite, whatever his number is, that makes sense? What you're talking about, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, there should be some overlap of information, and you see something like that done, like at the Buggy Works, a historic building that has, a reflection of both suite and business name, both overhead and at the door. So I just think that this hasn't been completely thought out, to David's point, and if it's a wayfinding plan, then we don't want this to seem like it's changing over the life of the building. It should have a logic that you're going to apply to it now and then improve it, and then it becomes a whole package, to everybody's point.
So with the applicant's removal of the smokestack and the monument sign, David, I was gonna take what your comments as almost the motion. Does that change any of your thoughts or anybody else's, or if not, if you have a motion?
To share one other thought I have, if we as the commission members have been more or less guided to use the standards on High Street for the 4th Street corridor. There isn't a separate set of design guidelines. We were told or recommended that we carry over the High Street ones. So the blade signs, honestly, the lichen sign to me is far better than the suite signs. And I could see that for this applicant, they could say, we're going to take the Lycans sign and we're going to say that's appropriate for whoever occupies that suite. It could have a suite number if they don't want their name on it. But it seems like the Blade sign is actually more in keeping with the standards. And I want to just come back and kill that tower one more time. We don't let other high street retailers have three names on any of their other buildings. I know Ben keeps bringing up the Hubbard Grill, but remember that was the exact sign that Winders Chevrolet originally had. It's documented in photographs. We know that sign was there on that building, so that's why that's there. There wasn't any signage on this smokestack ever, and it's far in the back of the property. You don't really see it coming up 4th Street, a one-way street. There's only one way to do it, and so killing the ball or really beating it down. But I just think if the motion, I guess I want you three to say, how do you feel about saying, let's make them all Blade signs? Because in essence, even their parking sign is a Blade sign on a post. Wouldn't that be better than taking the Blade and putting it flat to the suite? That's what's shown in these wall pictures, elevations that are showing up.
I don't disagree. And I think, but to go back to one of your first comments, continuity is important. So I think that if we start trying to change things by way of emotion, we're going to perhaps end up with disarray again. So I am going to recommend that we make a motion to continue this because really the few signs that we're talking about perhaps approving aren't really carrying a lot of weight. They're simple signs to make and so forth. So I think we should continue. Let it be designed holistic based on today's comments.
All right. Do I
The motion could be to continue, understanding that no signage on the tower and the monument sign is part of the motion. This will help the applicant move this forward so they don't go back and come to us again with the things that we've pretty well spoken about over and over again.
And I don't disagree that these projecting sign elements that you're proposing, that would probably be appropriate. So there's another +1 into that sort of direction, and the others want to weigh in on whether that's appropriate or not to help direct. Otherwise, I'm inclined to make a motion now on this application. If you will, the chairman, I move on to 20-02-09 B and C, North 1086 North 4th Street signage application to continue the application to next month to give the applicant more time to resolve these design continuity issues and ferret out the or flush out the elements that we've probably are inappropriate.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Thank you. And then we'll go down the roll. All those in favor? Ben.
Yes.
Brooke.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
I am also a yes. So the motion carries to continue to next month.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. Apologize.
Thank you.
Todd, we should probably recognize that one of our members has joined us, hasn't she?
She was, and I was going to make sure, do we need to swear her in before we have her vote on anything? That's why I didn't there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was going to say something earlier, but I couldn't find a moment. So Lauren is here for everybody.
Yeah. Sorry, Lauren.
Late. No, you're fine.
Perfect. Is Jason, I guess Jason jumps back in on the next one.
All right, sounds good. It's application IV-20-06-011, 906 North High Street. I will turn it over to staff to start, and then we'll get everybody sworn in.
All right, this is another condition with the alteration of rooftop patio. With the addition of a 300 square foot rooftop bar under the existing pergola, as well as the approval of an existing seesaw and previously installed speakers and TVs. The commissioners at the business meeting were against the approval of the speakers and outdoor television. This is in part due to their treatment of other speaker application and the noise disruptions that they can cause for the neighborhood. There was some discussion about support of the speakers once the building was so many floors high. 6 floors was what was maybe being okay. Concern was raised about the outdoor bar and square footage, especially since there is an existing bar in the interior of the second floor. During the previous review, commissioners expressed concern about the amount of seating as the bar does take 300 square feet. Would a compromise be to reduce seating, or does the interior bar offset the need for the exterior bar and additional seating in the area would be preferred? Per the Short North design guidelines, the rooftop structures and spaces should be designed in a manner to minimize negative offsite impacts such as light and noise. Per City Code 3116.13, the standards for site improvement, landscaping, parking, utility, or service areas, walkways, and similar improvements should be compatible to each other and to the subject building or structure, as well as adjacent contributing properties, open spaces, and the overall environment. Per City Code 3116.11, the standards per alteration, the temporary design for alteration to a property shall not be discouraged when such alteration does not destroy significant historical, architectural, or cultural material, and its design is compatible with the size, scale, color, materials, and character of the property, its environment, and surrounding contributing properties. I also did have Commissioner Goodman contact me a number of points that would probably be good to discuss about the outdoor areas, as well as acknowledging, again, we do need to revise our guidelines at some point. Staff recommends the denial based on city codes, as noted above, and the Short North design guide the off-site impacts of light and noise. And I do want to note that we should have a speaker for this one.
Sounds good. Can you remind me, it's been a little while, in this new format, are we taking the speaker before we swear the applicant in, or how's that work?
We'll be the applicant in and letting them present. And then before discussion with the commission, we'll be allowing our speaker to speak. I got corrected at one of the last commission meetings. So
Okay,
I've
just
been
making
doing it
sure.
wrong. I apologize.
No problem. So who do we have here that will be speaking for the applicant?
Good afternoon, Chairman. This is Bobby Rudder. I'm one of the owners, and I had our architect attend also because I think from a technical standpoint, he can kind of walk you through the layout a little better than I can.
Well, let me swear you both in. So
Sure.
who's the architect? I don't know if came on here.
Ciceretto.
Stephen? Okay, great. So if you will both state your names for the record. Stephen, you first.
Stephen Ciceretto.
And then Bobby. And then do you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this afternoon?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you heard the staff report. I'll turn it over to you for your presentation, and then we will go from there.
Steve.
Okay.
Steve, why don't you start off with the layout, please?
Okay. The original construction of the bar and restaurant, rooftop patio and restaurant was approved a while back. So, but as we got into the process in developing that rooftop for a little bit more COVID-friendly environment, especially, but we added, we came up with the concept to add a bar, rooftop bar underneath an existing pergola that's there. You can kind of see in this plan that's up right now, the existing rooftop pergola outline and the bar. During the construction documents, the code review, there's actually the rooftop area on this is actually about 1,800 square feet, just under 1,800 square feet. And at 15 square foot per occupant, the rooftop technically was, from the Ohio Building Code standpoint, allowed to have 120 occupants. Obviously, when we did the layout originally and understanding how furniture would really fit in there, we came up with a final number of 55, almost less than half of the number of occupants that would be permitted, and that was what the building department actually approved and thought was appropriate for the number of egress and the seating and the egress patterns. So we actually are showing in reality, we two of the benches or the booths that were set up for seating along the east side of the page there, the right side of that page you come out, were replaced with this decorative seesaw element. It's kind of a plaything and activity for the rooftop bar. And so the seating, we eliminated an initial 8 seats, bringing that count down even further. So I know there was some concern about how many people should be allowed on a rooftop and how many are actually there. And so although 120 technically by the code were permitted, 55 was the number that the building department and we agreed to early on. And so with the addition of the bar, we haven't really displaced any of those occupants. We just have structured them in a little different way where they could seat around the bar, again under a shaded canopy, which helps hold some of the light down and those rooftop activities. Okay, so further along, this was the Ram Brewery and restaurant, prior to Seesaw, to Bobby and his group taking over. And so those television, the 2 televisions and 2 sets of speakers that were up there and we've been using were part of that Seesaw, were part of that Ram Brewery installation. So we didn't actually add those to the rooftop; they were there.
And Steve, if I might address the Chairman, if I may just address the TVs and the speakers.
Sure.
So when we took over, those elements were present at RAM, whether they went through the committee or not, because I'm not 100% sure. And early on in our operation of the facility, I had met with Mark Wood and the city attorney about a noise issue. And I would like to think that at that time came down and ran it. And, I'd like to think that we took care of those issues over the course of operating time by, closing the doors. Everything outside is off sometime between 11 and midnight, regardless of the night of the week, whether it's Friday or Saturday. And frankly, is never on past 10 on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. We really feel like in order for us to survive and make it, I mean, the environment's very, very difficult, that things like sporting events and light noise are, it's just necessary for us to draw patrons up there for stuff like games and that type of stuff. So we did not install any extra speakers, nor did we install any bass up there, which is really what, in our experience, can be disruptive. We did receive, we provided a couple of residents that were having issues with us, our operating partner who's on site every night, his phone number to give him a call if there was ever any issues. We did receive 3 phone calls when we weren't open as to noise complaints. And when we looked into it a little bit, we realized that there was another tenant in the building that had some electronic setup. And so, I hope we've dismissed those. I always try to be a good neighbor while still, operating our business in a way that's going to be profitable for us. So we don't plan on installing any more. We'll cut sound and light at a, reasonable time on the weekend. And, we'd ask for your approval with those conditions.
Okay, let's go through the commissioners and see
Wait.
what everyone has to
You have a
say.
speaker.
Yeah, we have a speaker,
Oh.
Jason.
Yes, the speaker, I'm sorry. Who is the speaker?
Mark Wood.
Okay, Mark, you raise your right hand and state your name for the record, please.
Mark Wood.
And you promise to tell the truth in whatever it is that you are testifying or speaking to tonight.
I do.
Okay, good. And you have, I'm not sure, how much time do they have?
You have 3 minutes,
Okay.
and I'll be timing you.
Okay, sounds good. Whenever you're ready, Mark.
This is the first time I've been in the neighborhood for 25 years, done a lot of development. I've never come and spoken against another proposal. We have had, I think you all received a letter that I wrote, an email, but we've had just a tremendous amount of problems with residents moving out, complaining about seesaw operation. We've met with Bobby, things have not gotten better. We've had to lower rents significantly. We've had to warn people about the noise disruption when we're trying to market the apartments that are adjacent to seesaw. It's just been a huge problem for our Bruner building next door, which made a really big commitment to the neighborhood from a design and programming perspective. I think it was very well fit with the neighborhood, with a mixed use of residential, ground floor retail, and office. And really, we are just being killed. Our apartments are next door to Seesaw because of the Seesaw operation. We did not have this problem before when RAM was a tenant of the building. And we are, the Seesaw people are hoot and holler late at night after working on the Seesaw. The idea of expanding a big bar outside where we already have numerous issues. I had our property manager send me kind of a summary of complaints, and a lot of these people have just given up and given notice that they're moving out. But we have had over 40 residential contacts from our residents complaining to us about the operation, putting in earplugs and still not being able to sleep at nighttime. It's just been a real problem for us. It's not, from my perspective, what is good for the community. It's not a good neighbor policy. We just really have a problem, and that's why I'm here requesting a denial for the bar, the Seesaw, the outdoor speakers. This is just a very big problem for us as a neighbor.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming or joining us.
Okay. And Jason, if I could just say one more thing.
Sure, absolutely.
We were originally approved for operable windows on Lincoln Street with our new development. The comparable to this big, huge outdoor bar that is, adjacent to our property compared to operable windows. And when we came back, because we needed some modifications to the windows because of what we could source, the commission said, no, we no longer want operable windows on Lincoln Street. We did not fight that, kind of out of respect for, I guess, the vision of what the commission was trying to, present for the, keep for the neighborhood, even though I was confident that our operation that we would put in there would not be a problem for the neighborhood. But I was respectful, even though we'd had a prior approval for operable windows. I appreciated, I guess, the sensitivity that the commission had as it related to neighbors. So, and likewise, the 700 North High Street, we got rid of a bad situation there by effectively buying out the lease of a tenant, and have, well over 6 figures as far as the cost to us economically to provide an opportunity for a new experience there at 700 North High. So anyway, just hope we get the same consideration here
Again, this is the first time I've ever come out and spoken against an applicant.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Jason,
yeah.
could I make a suggestion,
Sure.
much like Todd did previously, but this one's a lot easier. A, B, C. Can we talk A, the bar that was an expansion, Seesaw being the B, and the speakers and televisions being C?
Sure, that sounds great. Do you want to
to that point, I would like to speak that I think the bar was not approved by this commission and would not probably have been, given what we've heard repeatedly from other projects and other tenants, particularly the standard up the street. Mark, I would take issue with one of your comments on the operable windows. That was because it was in the deeper neighborhood of a residential area. This admittedly is in the quote unquote entertainment district and is on High Street, which I think creates a little different challenge. But the fact that somebody said there is one bar inside, there are actually two bars inside, and this is a third one, which seems more than, it seems excessive. And I would say, since it wasn't approved, it does not stand. The seesaw element, surprisingly, I'm going to be in favor of. It doesn't make a lot of noise. It is a fun gimmick. I saw these down in Cincinnati during Bling. They're very entertaining, but there isn't a lot of noise associated with that. So I would be fine leaving that if it were to stay. And then on C, speakers and TV, I'm vehement that it may have been there before with RAM, but we have gone back and worked with almost the entire set of merchants on our side of the High Street to eliminate any speaker on the outside of the buildings. If their interior noise bleeds out, if they have wall or operable windows, then that's fine, but we don't need to pump more music out on to the sidewalk and be so distracting for neighbors. People are moving out of the Jackson for exactly the same reason. We're losing the residents. We have the potential of losing the residents. And I feel that we've got to stay consistent with what we've done for other restaurants and bars, eliminating outside TVs.
Okay, anything else, David?
I think it does it.
Okay.
No to A, no to C, okay with B.
Okay, Brooke?
I don't know what the seesaw thing is. Before David mentioned it, I was going to say, it seems like, do people sit on it, and is it a game that patrons are able to ride?
Yeah, they ride it. That's correct.
Yeah, so
essentially a light tube.
Right. So to me, that seems like just kind of a noisemaker in itself. Like a riding Bronco thing is a noisemaker. So I would try to bring a little more sophistication to the rooftop and get rid of the toys. And with regard to the bar, if that was not approved previously, I would not be in favor of that. I wonder if there is a way. I definitely get both ends of this, but I wonder if there is a way to introduce something to the rooftop seating to separate the seating areas a little more with planters or some material that would add some fabric texture to the space to try to absorb some of the sound that might be generated, and just make it a more focused grouping of seating areas instead of this big continuation of seating area after seating area. I think that might help. And then I am not again, I agree with David on the location of the speakers. I think that's outside speakers are not appropriate in this location.
Jason, may I just address the seesaw really quick?
No. Let's get through everything. It'll take us. We got to keep going.
Sorry.
Okay. Todd, can you give some comments?
Todd?
I think you're muted, Todd.
Thank you. Sorry. You always forget one time at least during the meeting, right?
Sure.
So this one, I struggled with this one more than I thought I would. As for the rooftop bar, I know it had not been approved and installed, so I can get behind it being removed. I also think that with some operational discipline, that I think it could live there. I think we've seen it and done it in other locations with some more discipline. But I can get behind the idea of it and not going forward because it was installed without approval. I have no issue with the seesaw. If it's a seesaw or it's a set of chairs, there are still going to be people on that roof deck. So the seesaw doesn't bother me. The speakers, I totally agree that it's not being a good neighbor the way that's being handled today. And I know a lot of the speakers that we have not allowed were pumping noise out into the public right away. And obviously, if these are turned up, they do just that. So I get the idea of them not making sense, but if they're operationally handled the correct way and it stays within the property, I also don't have an issue with it. Based on the way I understand and the complaints that we've heard that it's not being handled operationally, I can totally get behind the idea of these being removed. And I know we're not in the business of the operation of the businesses and stuff. So I can get behind not approving the bar as well as removing the speakers.
Okay, Lauren?
I am also not bothered by the seesaw. And I agree with that previous commissioners have said about the bar as far as it wasn't approved. So I could be in favor of removing it. And just want to add, it's difficult to hear that it doesn't appear that this business is being a good neighbor. And so I would also have to remove the speakers.
Okay, Ben?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in alignment with everybody else. I think that the benchmark should be how would you handle an outdoor space at the street level? So we've already indicated that speakers in that space and TVs are not appropriate. You wouldn't expect to have a bar out in that space. And I think anything acoustic is perfectly fine. So if it's a musician out there with a guitar, that's fine. But if anything's amplified, then it's not so fine. We could talk about how this lies in a commercial district, but it's not the same as being downtown where we've got a lot of, space between one rooftop and another, or residential areas. You got, residential adjacent and beside. The wood company is probably going to have to tolerate some of this just because they're on High Street and or figure out solutions themselves. But just circling back around that, thinking about an outdoor street space, I think is a good benchmark. So I support that we just need to have the applicant remove the bar, remove the speakers. The seesaw doesn't bother me one way or the other.
Okay, let me give a couple comments. I think I'm generally in line with a slight variations. I'm very sympathetic to the concerns that you have as operators, surviving in COVID right now, and get that we're trying to figure out a way to make sure that, you can stay viable during this time. I think you do have a really huge advantage, though, in the fact that you do have a pretty giant outdoor space that is serviced by an adjacent bar right inside. And I don't feel it's a massive hardship for your clientele to go inside to use that bar. I'm sure you could argue that you think you'll do better if you have a bar outside, and that's fine. That's an argument. I don't think it's demonstrably different from having a lot of outdoor seating. People can take a drink right inside and carry it outside and still enjoy that space as far as spacing for COVID and keeping your capacity up. So arguments that the bar is necessary are not convincing to me. I think it would be fine if it was in a circumstance where it wasn't likely to cause a disturbance. I think one of the things that I'm very concerned about philosophically in the way we review applications is I don't think we can rely heavily on operational hopes if we can get away with it. If we can not rely on that, that's better, because one restaurant is very different from another one. Ram didn't have these problems. You have these problems. The next operator may have 0 problems. The next operator might have twice as many problems. We don't know. So my take is we should do whatever it is that's within the context of the code and the guidelines that is most likely to reduce the possibility of operational error or operational dysfunction that still allows the business to succeed and thrive. And in my opinion, the fact that you have a bar right inside that has open doors that allows people to walk freely, I just can't get in support of this bar being outside. As far as the TVs and the speakers, I think the speakers, we've become pretty clear that speakers that push music into public space that are mounted on the outside of buildings are just not helpful to the neighborhood. They've caused problems up and down the corridor, and thankfully most of those have been removed. I get what you're saying, bass, this and that. I just think that as a bar patron, if you are going to have loud music outside, then you're going to encourage people to be outside being loud. If you're going to have loud music inside and then bar patrons walk outside to a quieter space, it's going to discourage, or they're going to be less encouraged to be loud. And so I think that having speakers outside isn't going to work for me. Having TVs outside, on the other hand, I could actually live with the TVs based on the fact that they can't be seen from the street. And yeah, sure, people may watch sporting events and cheer during the big plays, but that's usually going to be at a finite amount of time, and it's not going to be a consistent pulsating loudness that music will be. So I'm okay with the TVs, not okay with the speakers. The last thing is the seesaw. And I thought about this. I think I'm way more on the camp of where Brooke is. And I was already thinking that before I watched the video somebody submitted with two very, I know it's anecdotal because it's one time, but two very enthusiastic young riders screaming at the top of their lungs when nobody else is outside. I just am kind of suspecting that if you have a drink and you ride a seesaw, it's not going to be like sitting in a chair. I think you're probably going to be louder and a lot more enthusiastic. And the fact that it lights up, all I know is if I was in my 20s or my 30s or even in my 40s, which I'm not going to be after another month, and I went outside to ride a seesaw on a bar roof that was lighting up, I would be drunk and I would be yelling. And I think that's probably what's going to happen. So I think the seat, it's big. So I don't know if you can move it inside. I think it's okay inside. I don't think it works outside on a second floor roof deck that has overlooking residential. So, I mean, when it comes down to it, we have a guideline, and I'm sorry if I'm misquoting it, staff, but something very close to, we should be discouraging impacts of sound and light. And we already know there are impacts because it is happening. It would be one thing if we were reviewing this with our fingers crossed, hoping that operationally this would work out. But the fact that we're having multiple complaints and neighbors that are not satisfied with that means that I think we have to take doors that open, got a really great outdoor space that can have a whole bunch of chairs in it. And you can be creative in the ways that you can arrange those and have that function. But I would be in favor of keeping the TVs, removing the speakers, relocating the seesaw indoors, and removing the bar. So with that, I will turn it back over to the applicant to respond before we go through with any kind of motion.
Thank you for the comments. I'll start with regard to the seesaw. I mean, we had it custom manufactured and built as a real centerpiece of the restaurant, obviously judging by the name. I mean, incidentally, it's a $12,000 seesaw, and we supervise it so we can limit what type of activity goes on it. We think it's been a really cool and different thing to a bar and restaurant. And we don't really see it as a noise creator in the neighborhood. With regard to the TVs, you know, I do think as part of our concept, I think watching sports and especially now that people are getting back into it with Ohio State and the Blue Jackets and the Cleveland and Cincinnati teams, to be able to watch a game outside on a large patio is a draw. We pay you know, a big rent number, and one of the reasons we do is because of the patio and the ability for people to gather out there and watch the game. The interior of the space is extremely low ceilings, so it's very difficult for sight lines for the customers inside unless you're right in front of it. So I believe that's why Ram probably put them out there as well, and certainly is something that we really feel like we need. As far as the bar goes, we set up the structure. We didn't run the mechanicals. Right now, we're just using it as a place where people sit just like any other seating element within the space. And our bars inside, we noted the amount of bars, but the one bar is a 7-8 seat bar. It's very, very tiny. It just kind of breaks up the flow. So we really felt like it was necessary in order to serve the amount of people that can go in a 10, 11,000 square foot venue. So those are my comments, and I'll be happy to take any questions if anybody has them.
Okay, other questions by commissioners?
Let me just follow up on that last comment by the applicant. Is that to say that there are no draft spigots there and there are no liquor out there being served across the bar?
Yeah, that's correct. And
there's no staff behind the bar.
There could be staff behind the bar taking things, you know, servicing, but we didn't take liquor and that type of stuff out there as a fully functional bar. Because when COVID hit, we were on the agenda. I think Kim can remember, but right around when COVID hit and things got pushed back, we did make the decision to build the structure, and then was kind of going to wait and see what would happen from there. So yeah, no bar taps. There's not even water running to that currently.
Well, that should impact all of this to some extent, but it just to improve it without anybody's knowledge. So I'm going to think about that for 30 seconds.
Your commissioner questions. It's a just good distinction. That's important to know. Commissioner thoughts, questions. Hey, Ben, do you have any further your 30 seconds of pondering?
Well, I, to some extent, feel like that bar got kind of swept into this tidal wave of sound issues. So now knowing that it's not serviced by water or any sort of drainage is what I'm understanding. It doesn't have any taps and so forth. I would be inclined to continue that piece of the application so that we can take a more architectural view of that with that configuration. If it's been deprogrammed of those kinds of flowing services, then I have a different perspective of the whole thing. Beyond that, I think that we should sort of break this down to A, B, and C, and D. Or I'm sorry, A, B, C.
Actually, Ben, I think you're right. It is a D because they want to split speakers and televisions.
All right, so I'm going to make a motion to continue the bar as part A at the, if that's okay with the chair.
Sure, yeah, please.
All right, on application 20-06-001, 906 North High Street, Seesaw, -A, which is going to apply to the bar, I move to continue to allow the applicant to further explain the programming and the architectural features of that architectural element.
Okay. Applicant, are you okay with continuing that to a further meeting? applicant, Mr. Rudder, are you okay?
Yeah, sorry, I'm muted. I apologize.
Okay, no worries. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, I'll call the roll. In favor of continuing the bar portion of the application for further consideration, Ben,
Aye.
Todd,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Brooke,
Yes.
David,
Okay.
Jason, yes, so that is continued. Okay, so Ben, do you want to continue your motions?
Yeah, on 20-06-11-B, which will apply to the seesaw, I move to approve as existing and as applied.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I'll call the motion or the roll. Ben,
Aye.
David,
I think it's okay.
Brooke,
No.
Todd,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
and I'll vote no. Motion carries. It is approved. Ben, you want to go for another one?
On application 20-06-011-C, speakers, I move to approve as they have been presented and today.
So a yes vote means they stay, and a no vote means they are vote to remove. Correct? Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Ben,
No.
David,
No.
Brooke,
No.
Lauren,
No.
Todd,
No.
and I'm a no, so that one does not carry. Last one.
20-06-011-D, which will be about television monitors.
Okay.
Move to approve as existing today.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor. Ben,
Aye.
Lauren. Oops, I'm sorry. I heard a bark.
Yes, that's my work.
That
dog is in favor. Okay. Todd?
I want to say yes, Jason, but to an amendment is, or just a question to Ben, would the speakers of the TV still be allowed? Or do those need to be off as well?
These TV monitors, so I'm assuming that they have separate sound systems, and I probably should modify the motion to clarify that, shouldn't I?
Well, I will say that again, I think we're getting into some murky waters when we're putting criteria on things like that for future operations. We can do it. I think it's almost like we have to accept if it's an actual TV that has a speaker in it, that's what it is. That'd be my advice, but I don't know, staff, what do you think?
I have to agree. I think if the TVs have speakers, you're approving the TV with the speakers, regardless of if the applicant is using them or not, because it comes one thing.
Yeah, I think it gets a little too dicey to start putting all these nuances on. It's all of a sudden
All right, I accept that as part of my motion, that TVs are with speakers. No additional outside speakers, but just their own speakers.
Okay.
And I'll stay with yes, Jason.
Okay, sounds good.
I am.
Okay, and Ben, you're still a yes since you accepted it?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
David?
I'm a no.
Brooke?
I'm a yes.
And I'm a yes as well, so the TV motion carries.
All right, I'm going to pause you guys real quick because we did have a denial for C. I wanted to know, are you citing any guidelines or city code specifically for this denial reason?
And do you want to do it or do you want me to try? As far as the speakers go.
If you want to try, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the primary basis is the short note design guidelines that we need to design this in a manner to minimize offsite negative impacts of light and noise particularly. And we feel that that is something that causes offsite noise problems. And so we discourage outdoor mounted speakers in any location along the corridor that would cause any adverse offsite impacts.
And we have previously denied other applicants' requests to do that. The most recent one I know is Moxie, that went ahead and put them up anyway and then had to take them all down again.
Yep. They did in a couple places.
So we're being consistent with what we've done for other hospitality locations.
Correct, including restaurants. Yeah. Okay, good. Does that do it for us, staff?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. All right, thanks, applicant.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're moving on. 20-08-009-179 East Lincoln. Staff.
Okay, I'm just going to take a moment to point out it's just about 5:30 and we do have a couple more of these to go through. I know some of our commissioners have to leave at 6, so just be cognizant of the time as we go through the rest of these. So this application is to remove 2 existing chimneys from the roof. They are being proposed to be removed down to the roof line and then decked over and installed with the roofing material. Commissioners present at the business meeting stated that it was not appropriate to remove the original chimneys. They had to be kept, repaired, and maintained. City Code 3116.11 standards of alteration. Commissioners suggested that the applicant work with the Historic Preservation Office staff for maintenance and repair with the chimneys. It's also suggested that the applicant withdraw from the agenda as it would likely be denied. These were both conveyed to the applicant, though I have not heard back from them. If the application is kept on the agenda, the commission did request additional contextual photos from the street looking up at the chimneys. Again, I don't believe I received that. City Code 3116.11 standards for alteration. The distinguishing characteristics of the property should not be destroyed. Removal or alteration of any historic materials or distinctive architectural features shall be avoided whenever possible. Distinctive stylistic features and examples of craftsmanship that characterize a property should be treated with sensitivity. Deteriorated architectural features shall be repaired rather than replaced whenever possible. Staff does recommend denial of this application as submitted based on the city code stated above.
Okay, great, thanks. So you said we do or don't have any applicants here today?
I do not know if we have any applicants today or not. I just know that they didn't respond back to my business meeting materials, which could mean they are
here to speak to this. Any applicants here to speak to this? Seems we do not. Staff, how would you recommend that we proceed?
I would recommend skipping this and coming back to it just in case they're not on at the moment.
Okay, sounds good. So let's move ahead. We will, 2 next ones are moved to staff approval. So that gets us to number 8, which is IV-20-08-012, 248 East 4th. And this is regarding the installation of solar panels. Do I have applicants to speak to this?
Yes, that's me.
Okay, give me 1 second and we'll turn it over to staff, then we'll get you sworn in. So staff?
All right, well, you already summarized what this project was about, so I'm not going to read everything. The items for discussion include that the commissioners requested to see the mounting details for the solar panel. Additional contextual photos were requested of the surrounding area. Commissioners are in favor of alternate energy sources, but we're worried about the visibility. And I will note we did receive the mounting details and additional photos, including a drone footage of the area, which that can be played if the commissioners need to see. I did also upload it on Box and forward it to everybody. A commissioner did make
super helpful. Thank you for that. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Commissioner did suggest making the solar panels more of an architectural feature would be preferable as opposed to just sticking them on the roof, integrating them into the architecture like by saddling the gable. City Code 3116.12 standards for new construction does note that the structure's roof is a major distinctive visual element, generally a simple roof shape similar in form and type to adjacent and visually related roofs is appropriate. Scale The size and mass of structures in relation to open spaces, openings, and projections should be compatible with adjacent visually related structures and open. Staff does recommend approval as submitted.
Okay, great. So is it Andrew?
Yes.
Great. Will you state your name for the record?
Sure. It's Andrew Bowe.
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this evening/afternoon?
I do.
Okay, great. So do we have somebody else too?
The homeowner may be here, but Mr. Myers, but he
speak today, Mr. Myers?
Yes, I'm here as well.
Okay, well, let me get you sworn in just in case. So could you state your name for the record?
Yes, Josh Myers.
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this evening?
I do.
Okay, great. So over to you.
Great. So it's basically we're just adding panel to the east and west roof of the garage. I've attached how the panels will look, and then of the racking equipment that was installed, that would be installed as well. So the attached pictures that you'll see of the racking are of my own home. So the panels aren't at all what they'll look like. There's a separate pictures for what the panels will look like, but it's pretty basic. And then it should integrate into the home pretty well. So.
Mr. Myers, Josh, would you like to say anything?
No additional comments. Yeah, we picked all black panels and chose to only install them on the accessory structure with the hope that, it was less visible from the, street right-of-way locations.
Okay. All right. So with that, commissioners, let's work through this one. Todd, would you like to start?
Sure. I mean, I think I'm in favor of this based on the location. The carriage house is so inset into the center of this whole block. And I know we've talked about finding test cases and where this would be appropriate. I think this is about as least risk as a commission could take to explore the use of solar panels and see how appropriate they can be. So I'm all in favor.
Great. Lauren?
I am excited to see how these are going to fit in to the structure if they are approved, especially just alternative energy uses or harvesting uses. I also agree with Commissioner Boyer that this is a good structure to try it out on. I don't see where it would be an issue from this design.
Okay, great. Ben?
I have a question for Mr. Bowe, and on this sheet that we're looking at right now in our presentation, we're seeing the roof plan, but we also see a couple of other icons that might represent features of equipment that are on the roof. Can you explain what those are, if they are?
Okay. So the main panel, so down where it says LC, that's the main loads panel that's in your basement. So that's on the interior. And then the inverter, so what converts the DC energy from the panels to AC, what your home would use, is also on the interior. That's right there. And then right above that is the disconnect. So the disconnect would have to be on the outside. So that's just needs to be visible for everyone. So there's like a tiny little sticker that needs to be visible on it too. So just in case we need to shut it down. And then the homeowner's meter is where the M is. So
is that on the roof or that's down on the wall someplace?
That's down on the wall. So that's yeah. What?
All right. So the only other thing that's on the roof is the disconnect switch, which is something very small.
Sorry. So the disconnect switch is actually would be down by the meter on the side of the house. So.
All right. Well, I am supporting this application, and it has a lot to do with the fact that we're talking about a simple dormer single slope roof and a one pitch of a gable, so that the rectilinear forms of the solar panels match well with the profile of the roof footprint. And I am going to also say that in my mind's eye, this is an experiment, and that as we get further into this, I'm going to be inclined to raise the bar that the panels go edge to edge, trying to mimic the actual roof line. And this is especially important if we're thinking about hip roofs or the kinds of roof lines. Not everybody may agree with that, but the point is that that's something I'm going to be looking forward in the future. I approve this configuration that we're looking at here today.
Okay, great. Brooke?
Yeah, I think this is a really good location to try this. I'm definitely in favor.
Great. David?
Could I ask a question? The garage is relatively new construction, correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
I think the motion should somehow state that the reason the commission is proving this because it is new construction or relatively new. It's not a historic contributing structure. I think we'd all have a more challenging time approving these if it was to be on a historic structure.
Well, I don't have any further comments. So David, would you like to make that motion?
Sure. I move the approval of the application to put solar panels on a garage structure of a newly constructed garage structure.
Second.
Submitted.
Okay, call the roll. David?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so motion carries. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next one. It's of 9 IB-20-08-013 5961 East Russell. I'll turn it over to you, Steph.
All right, this application is to replace all the windows and doors with Quaker Brighton LS series. Our applicant sent me the windows from the approved list today, so I have swapped in those sheets and we'll be looking at those after we get through all of the drawings here, as well as to add 3 windows on the south elevation, convert the east door on the south elevation into a window. The commissioners were in support of adding the rear windows at the business meeting, noting that it was odd that the rear did not have any openings at all. The windows would need to be from the approved list, which the applicant has already supplied. This structure previously had an addition on the rear, which contained multiple windows. And I'm going to have to thank Connie for getting into the office and scanning those for me. Those are going to be the first couple pictures that we see, as well as I think, previous approval.
That's great.
The addition was demolished sometime between 1981 and the present. I don't have an exact date on that. The county auditor's website did note of fire damage with a permit issued in 1993 and a demo building permit issued in 2002. There's no COAs regarding the removal of the rear addition that were in the file that we could find. Staff does recommend approving the application with the condition that the windows are chosen from the approved list, which has already been done, and that the rear windows are placed similarly to their historic alignment, retaining those doors.
Question. In the application, we're seeing a diagram or sketch of a door with an arched top. Is that something that you're reviewing, staff, or that we're not approving here?
Ben, what page of the PDF?
We are an application, not.
Oh, no,
Yeah, it's like
yes,
5.
that was from a previous application.
Okay.
So that was something that was in the file, that arched door.
Gotcha. Okay. And
Just-
this recommendation is to continue this to work with staff?
No, the recommendation is to approve this with a slightly different window configuration. But as I said, the first couple pages are going to be the previous approval and previous photos.
Gotcha.
Sorry for the confusion there.
Do we have anybody from staff or from the applicant that would like to speak today?
I'm here.
Okay, great. Can you state your name for the record?
Joseph Karifa.
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony this afternoon to the best of your ability.
Yes.
Okay, great. Over to you.
So we're basically, we're basically looking to add 3 exterior windows to the back. We're going to replace all windows and doors. The Quaker Brighton series is what we've selected. They also have a door that's associated with the windows that we'd like to use. It'd be a full view door, mimicking the casement windows that we have selected.
Okay.
Can we ask the applicant to go back to the south elevation? Go back just a minute, please. And there are 2 different back doors shown. That's not, no, I'm sorry. There's another south elevation right there. Right there. One more. There. Notice on the far right side, there's a very strangely proportioned door with the transom that's all in small panels. Doesn't match the architecture at all.
That's existing.
Okay, so both doors will be changed?
Yeah. So that the door to the right would be replaced with a window, and then the door to the left would be replaced with a full view.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Other applicant or other commissioners, questions?
I have a question about the type of windows that are being installed. How are they operating?
Casement. So they'll prop open. Yeah, prop open.
So
Is that what original windows would have been? Probably not.
No, I don't think originally they would have been casement windows. No.
Good
question.
Be more appropriate.
Yeah, staff, what's your opinion on that use of casement windows in this building?
I mean, are the casement windows now?
No.
Right. I'd recommend replacing like for like with the windows, which are they 1/1s or 2/2s?
I believe they're 1/1s.
I'd recommend replacing with 1/1s then, which I know that window type isn't limited to just the casements. So if you still wanted to use the same windows for the 1/1s, you could.
We'd use the Quaker Brighton. They come. I was trying to, change the design aesthetic a bit, but that's perfectly fine with us.
Yeah, I think any commissioners have any objections to using a 1/1?
I prefer it.
Right.
Okay, it seems like that's the consensus. Any other, just in an effort to expedite this, because since we're running low on time, are there any other comments from any other commissioners?
The only other comment I have is that this bright 100 are all fiberglass windows. I'm not sure what the existing window is that we're replacing. They look to be replacement windows. They're not. I'm guessing they're not the original wood windows. But typically on these historic structures, we ask people to replace windows with wood windows or aluminum clad wood windows.
It is aluminum clad. Sorry to interrupt. Aluminum clad wood.
Yeah, it's on that list. It's a Quaker Brighton LS series that's on that approved list. Got circled on page 9 of the PDF.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion on this one?
So moved to approve adding 3 additional windows and approve doors, working with staff to finalize and recommending that the windows be 1/1.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I'll call the roll. David?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Jason, yes. All in favor? Okay, great. Staff to get it figured out. Thanks a lot. Okay, so next one is number 10, ID 20-08-014-815 Hamlet, over to you, staff.
Right, this application is for the rear addition to the house, which will more than double the size and be taller or matching the existing house height. Demolition of an existing one-story addition on the rear of the house. A proposed detached two-story or two-car garage at the rear of the lot along Beacon Ave. Its siding will match the existing house. Addition materials to match the existing house and incorporate some of the brick on the rear. And I think this is the one that I meant to go back and correct the agenda and I forgot to, so my apologies. I know we've got some different building material added in there. Rear yard will have a patio and landscaping, and the applicant is also requesting the recommendation of approval on variances. Commissioners at the business meeting thought that the project was moving in a good direction, but the windows on the south elevation by the stairs had too many windows. There would need to be fewer and more organized windows. The applicant has submitted revised drawings, including 2 different proposed window configurations for that space. Due to the windows, there would likely not be a final vote until that design would be resolved. The commissioners encouraged the applicant to prepare an alternate design showing fewer windows. It was also noted that the setback needed to be discussed, and a commissioner commented that the current design is a mixture of historic and modern. Design needs to go in one direction or the other. Staff recommends approval of the application with the conditions that the overall height is lowered below the original house and that the addition is stepped back so that it does not blend in with the overall height and the siding, and that the rear patio is made out of the previous pavers. And I believe we've got our applicant here.
Brad, is anybody else going to talk today?
Nope, just me today.
Okay, sounds good. Will you state your name for the record?
Brad Parrish with Arch Hall.
And you promise to tell the truth in your testimony to the best of your ability this evening.
I do.
Okay, great. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so we're back again here. I think we spoke last year in first part in January, looking to close this out. The 2 options, if you could bring those up in this presentation, we did sort of option 1, option 2. Both seem very viable with the stair circulation on the inside of the building. So don't really, I would tend to like the option 1, which has more of a stair step configuration. I think this has taken sort of a step back from the modern, a little bit more some traditional elements on that stair there with the corner windows. So I think that does it. As far as responding to the roof line, we did talk about this in the January, and because it was behind the second one, this is going to be his master bedroom in the back side. So he really wanted the height, because the heel height of the existing house is very, very low, that it creates clipped ceilings. And so at that time, there didn't seem to be any objection because it's behind. And there was sort of a transition break from the front roof to the back on that. The patio, we talked about, the client would like to do buff wash concrete, potentially in 2 different varying colors. So versus the permeable pavers, he wants to have a little bit cleaner look on the back patio there. And I think we've selected all the materials from sort of approved list for the doors and windows. So I'll keep it short and sweet and answer any questions.
Okay, great. Who wants to start on this one? Ben, I was going to park my screen. Ben, you want to start?
Yeah, I'm going to go okay. So the roof line. Wow, that is really kind of painting us into a corner, Brad. We kind of have that rule of thumb going. And so I'm really interested in what some of the other commissioners feel about that, and wondering if you could kind of brace for lowering that. But the thing I'm most concerned about is the stair-step windows, which I think in principle could have been kind of a cool thing. It's just because they're all 2/2s, all with their own lintel and framing, that it felt a little sort of clunky. So I'd say if we had to choose between option A and option B, I'd select option B. But just know that if you felt compelled to revisit the stair-step configuration with a different window set and trim approach, that I might still be open to that thought. As far as the landscape coverage goes, generally not in favor of anything. It's so concrete pavers, provided that they're on gravel, are fine. But if you're trying to pave the whole area, sub-pave it with concrete, that's a no-go for me.
All right, thanks. Brooke.
I agree with Ben's comment about trying to lower the height of the structure, particularly as it relates to the house next door that is just so tiny, and trying, to be a little more cognizant of the relationship there. And I agree with the stair stepping of the stairs on going up seem to be a little busy, and maybe there's a little bit of study. I get the concept. I think maybe there could be a more study in the right solution for that. And I agree with Ben on the non-permeable solution to the patio would be a non-starter.
Okay, David.
I just would like to suggest to Brad that option B doesn't seem as invasive to the neighbor's yard, where that one, this one has more facade and gives a little privacy to the neighbors, where the other one seems like we're watching the neighbors a lot. So that would be my concern, that B works better for fitting into the neighborhood.
Okay.
Any other thoughts, David?
Nope, I think other people have already commented enough.
Okay, Lauren? Todd?
I'm actually in support of the application. I don't mind either option 1 or 2. So I'm okay with what's submitted.
Yeah, I don't have further either. So what do we have out there as far as interest in making a motion of some sort?
I guess my question is, so the applicant wants space to continue aspect of the application to refine them. Otherwise, my motion will probably, it affects the motion.
Okay, so Brad?
So we can get on board with the sort of pervium pavement on the patio. I'm not going to argue about that. I think the roof line, again, we did discuss this back in January and had sort of support at that time. And really the need for that to give a good space and live and master that one's a tough cut. I'm okay with option A or B. I don't have, I see merits in both. Elevation, and I respect David Cook's notion about the neighbor. So I could get on board with saying let's drop option 1 and go with option B, or option 2 rather. With it, I think the tough part here is the roof line and lowering that for that back area.
Yeah, I'll say I'm not crazy about the higher roof line. I would prefer it wasn't there. I do think the location makes it a little easier on me, since it is quite to the rear of this lot, and not really imposing on the streetscape. But don't love it, but I can be in support of it. Is there a feeling out there ready to make this?
It sounds like we're kind of 50-50 on that roof line, so it's up to the applicant, I think, to clearly what his intent might be.
Brad, I don't want to misspeak for you, so can
Yeah.
you restate where you're thinking on the roof?
Yeah, I mean, my intention would be keep the roof line as submitted at this time. Option 2 for the windows, pervial pavers on the back patio.
Okay, I'll make a motion if it pleases the chair.
Yeah.
Move on 20-08-014, 815 Hamlet Street, to approve the application as presented today with the following stipulations: that the patio paver, the patio area will be permeable, and that the option B or 2, I can't remember what it is.
2,
for
it's
the,
2.
2, yeah.
Okay. For the, which elevation is that? Is that the north?
South.
South.
Elevation. And that's all.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we'll call the roll. Ben,
No.
Todd,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Brooke,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so it does carry. I believe we also need another motion to recommend the variances, correct?
I'll make a motion to approve approve recommending, right, what do? We make a motion to recommend approval of the variances. There we go.
That's it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who is that, Ben?
Yes.
Okay, great. I will call the roll. David,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes. Sorry.
that's right, Brooke,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so that one carries as well. Okay, thanks, Brad.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Okay, let's squeeze the beginning of this last one in here. IV-20-08-015, 777 North 4th. I will hand it over.
All right, we have seen this before. Conceptually, this is for a vote this time. I'm not going to go into detail of everything. I'm just going to give a brief overview of this. So the proposed work includes graphics and signage, as well as landscaping of the patio garden area and minor revisions to the exterior of the building. The commissioners at the business meeting requested that the PDF be submitted in a smaller scaled down file size. So they did note that it's reviewed when it's downloaded to a desktop as opposed to being viewed on box. I check as well, it's similar in size to the previous application, but I know it does get a little clunky, so the applicant did send another one over, as well as submitting a couple variations based on the commissioner's comments in this meeting. Now, the commissioners were also leaning towards the 2 louvers having arches. The one the building's windows. The change to the door was well received. The commissioners did note that it could be pushed to be a bit more artistic. Caution of how high the fence could go was mentioned as well. Commissioners noted that the fence should be pulled back off the street so that it did not come in front of the crane to the north. Cut product sheets of the proposed pavers were also requested. The applicant provided the updated material with an arched louver on the west elevation and noted the fence would be no more than 6 feet high, as well as adjusted its location. Staff recommends the approval with the condition that door and fence panel be differentiated so they don't match exactly.
Okay, great. Who do we have to the applicant tonight, or application?
Edward Fay here.
All right, Ed, can you, you just stated your name for the record. Do you promise to swear?
I do.
Okay, great. So with that, go right ahead.
Hey, Jason, it's Todd.
You're abstaining, Todd?
Yeah, sorry, I wanted to get that in there before you jumped in.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Thanks.
Record Todd's abstaining. So, Ed, go right ahead and tell us.
First of all, the revisions we consists of 3 items. First, I'll address the louvers on the west. I combined 2 louvers into 1 arched opening. The arched opening and the louvers are proportioned similarly to the windows around the building. The second thing that we noted, and Kimberly noted it too, is people have mentioned on several occasions the height. Those are at 6 feet. Just to be clear, I think people perceive them as being much taller than that, but they're only 6 feet. David mentioned that the Kramer building to the north sits back. I think it sits back about 11 or 12 feet from what I can tell from the information that we've been able to obtain. So we moved the fence and the gates back so it's not in front of the Kramer building so that we can maintain an edge and put landscape hedges and trees in front of the gate and the fence to soften it from the street.
Stop my vote. Who needs to mute or something? We're getting a lot of static. Somebody outside or.
Okay, anything else that you'd like to share from the applicant side?
I don't think so at this time.
Okay, let's run through the commission then. David, you want to start?
The fact that the gate's back and isn't out on the line is meeting my criteria. Otherwise, I'm very excited to see this happen.
Okay, great. Brooke?
I agree with Dave's comments. This is really nice.
Lauren?
I have nothing to add.
Todd?
Todd's out.
I'm out.
Ben?
Yeah, all these are great improvements. I have one question though. How much of the landscape area is now permeable pavement?
It's a little under 900 square feet.
Percentage-wise?
How much percentage-wise? Maybe Phil, you can jump in here and help.
I didn't want to stop the train for the swearing in, but this is Phil Moorhead with G2 Planning and Design.
Okay, Phil, you promise to tell the truth in your testimony this evening?
I could not give an exact percentage. We are proposing a continuous concrete, which is represented on the plan you're looking at right now as the darker half. I would estimate it's more than 50% of that.
So 50%-ish of the proposed hardscape will be permeable.
That's ballpark, but I would estimate that's about right.
All right. It's north of 40%, then feeling good. So 40%?
Okay.
I'm submitting. If that was a yes to the 40% question, then favor of the project as is.
Okay, great. I don't have any further comments. I do want to say I think it's really important that we try to get vertical landscape elements like these trees as much as we can along Fourth, since we have such a limited amount of space. So I really do appreciate you doing that. That's a big help. Nothing further to add besides that. So with that, do we have anyone willing to make a motion out there?
I will make a motion to approve application 20-08015 for 77 North 4th as recently as revised and submitted today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I'll read the roll. David?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, and Todd is abstaining, so that motion carries. Thanks for continuing the revisions. We appreciate it. Okay, so we are back to the one we skipped. Staff, how do you want to proceed on the one we skipped?
All right, I want to ask, I know we've got people on here that aren't associated with the other applications. Do we have applicants for 179 East Lincoln Street? If you're here, you do need to be unmuted and on video if the commission will have to continue your application.
Okay, last call. Anybody for 179 East Lincoln Street?
Okay, and I'm just going to make sure, Jacqueline, there's nobody in the inbox that's having technical difficulties?
No emails received.
Kimberly, when you spoke to this applicant after the businessman meeting, did they have a clear understanding that it was unanimous to not allow the removal of these chimneys?
When after the business meeting, I sent an email to who is, and I let them know exactly what I had put in the staff report, that it needed to be repaired and that the commission was not in favor for the removal of these chimneys. I haven't heard anything back from them.
Okay.
So in continuing this, I'll reach out to them again. I might give them a call as well, just we haven't heard anything. And I want to make sure that we're getting in touch and that we get these chimneys repaired.
Yeah, and the durable slate person was at the business meeting, so he probably maybe went back to his clients or applicants and told them that, but.
Great.
Pretty
good. Motion to continue.
On application 2008-009, 179 East Lincoln Street, I move that we continue.
Okay, do I have a second?
Okay.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Ben?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Okay, motions or that applicant's continued. Staff, do we have any old business?
No, we do not.
Any new business?
No, we do not.
Okay, so there we go. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Do I have a second? Okay, I'll call the roll. David? Ben?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
And Jason says yes. Okay, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, Brooke, where was that bartender?
He'll be